Welcome back to Politics Watch. This is Therapy. Now, just like an old school dancehall party, I'm gonna need all the different crews to start checking. The early comment crew start checking. Hit the like button from early crew checking. Even the dislike button crew. Everybody checking. Today we have a good one. Today I'm gonna talk about an individual who, as you can see from the thumbnail, in my opinion, I would describe as the most interesting criminal in at least known Jamaican history. Known. We're talking about people who make news. This is my opinion. I know some people might get emotional and try to tell me about the money and the money. I'm talking about my opinion. I'm going to tell you why I think this individual is interesting. And bear in mind, interesting does not translate to good. I'm putting that out there for the simpletons. I know Simple Simon is always watching. Interesting does not equal somebody who should look up to or glorify. However, the facts remain, anyone and anything can be interesting. Hell, even a deadly virus can be interesting because it makes you ask questions. What? Where it come from? Where it come from? How it fix? How you fix it? How you cure it? These are things that are triggered when you're interested. This individual, Cedric Murray, aka Doggy from the Stone Crusher gang. That's how I would describe this person. Killer by all accounts, a murderer. But even from the worst, we can take good things and try to apply them to our modern and our current situation and try and show the future, show young men coming up that listen, it doesn't have to end like this. The reason why I think Cedric Doggy Murray is the most interesting criminal to me in Jamaican history is because of something that he left behind in death, not what he did in life. See, in life, Doggy was your run-of-the-mill hitman, right? He might have been more proficient than most, right? He was he made a lot of money off killing people, traveled all up and down Jamaica, take people's life. Unlike the other members of the Stone Crusher gang who were predominantly based in St. James, this youth was mobile. Right, as I said, he was one of Jamaica's top hitman at the time. But he left something behind. See, usually when 87 or 90 gets killed, all them leave behind is a trail of victims and a trail of fatherless children. That's what they normally, the average 87, that's what they leave behind. Trail of victims and a trail of fatherless children who no longer have a daddy, right? Especially the people who lose them daddy with them killed, right? But this youth left something behind. He left his diary. Today we're going to go into Doggy's diary. Now, before I go into the diary and the contents of it and what I think is also inside of it that never made it to the public, let me just give you a brief background as to who Cedric Doggy Murray was. Now, Doggy initially was not there when Stone Crusher was being formed in the foreign. See, in the old time, it was actually called a Renegade. Before it became Stone Crusher, it was known as a Renegade, right? And back then they'd have some little foolishness with some youth called Piranha and all kind of foolishness. But back then they were not as heavily armed or as heavily funded, right? But police did start to clamp down on them, and enough of them did go foreign and start split up all over the place. Doggy was one of these individuals, right? Fresh out of high school, he went to St. James High, I think, if I recall correctly, right? A past student of St. James High. After him fly out and was in America, that is where him actually learned how to bad. Doggy learned foreign badness. This is very important, right? Doggy learned how to be a hitman, a foreign. I don't know if this ended up being one of the reasons why he ended up being so much smarter than the other 87s who he was around, because people, if you think Jamaica crime bad, when you mix it with foreign badness, you're in for a whole different ball game, right? This is why a lot of those criminal reporters, some of them are Jamaica's worst nightmare because they pick up foreign style of badness, right? Now, he had a brother, right, named Prince. And while Doggy was away, right, his brother was killed in one of these conflicts, right? This was the moment when Doggy, most people agree that Doggy became a monster. Don't get it twisted. He was already at 87 in the United States, right? It's not like say he was over there a good boy and him come back and then after him hear same brother drop out, him turn into a 87. That's not true. A lot of people think that's the case. No, Doggy was already at 87 in the United States. He was already known. He might have a reputation from foreign. When him come back to Jamaica, right, that is when things took and went to a new level, right? After him get deep, come back to Jamaica, by now Renegade became Stone Crusher. Doggy was driven by one main thing initially, and that was revenge for his brother, right? That was his early motivation, right? A lot of the young Stone Crushers, they wanted to be dons, they wanted to be era leaders, they wanted everybody to fear them and respect them, and they wanted all the kerosene oils. Doggy was obsessed with getting revenge for his brother. In the process of getting revenge for his brother, people realized that Doggy was very proficient in being a hitman. He was very good at getting away, something a lot of 87s can't do. A lot of 87s can take a life, but them so fool in a sense. They walking out, them walking a building where them know a camera full up. Them walking there with not even a mask on them face, and next thing you know, them get catch and that's it, story done. Doggy was very good at escaping. However, all that would change on August the 12th, 2010. See, that day was an interesting day for Doggy. It was his birthday, and it was also his last day on earth. Cedric Doggy Murray was killed on his birthday, right? I've always found it really contradictory when somebody dies on the same day where them came into this world, right? Now, people, moving into the diary. When you read the Doggy diary, you get a unique perspective on the inner workings of an apex 87. We're not talking about a youth who does that try a thing or do a one or two murder here and there. Cedric Doggy Murray was a seasoned 87. And if my old time subscribers remember my Stone Crusher video, I told you, every seasoned soldier hates war, and every seasoned 87 hates badness. They get to a point where they become fed up, where they can no longer escape it. They cannot. They've done too much. They've hurt too many people, and too many people want to see them head on a stick, whether it's the security forces, the public, or even their enemies, and sometimes their friends. So they get stuck in this mental prison where there is no way out, and they move from being the big man on the block to basically depressed human beings walking around soulless, lifeless. If you watch my Preke Boy video, this is the same thing I said about Preke Boy. When I look at Preke Boy, I see somebody who is in the state that Doggy spoke about in his diary. But what did Doggy say in his diary? Now I'm going to read you a few excerpts from the diary. So if it sounds like there's a lot of pauses in my speech, it's because I'm trying to shuffle between what he wrote. So people, let me go into some of the things that Doggy spoke about in his diary. Now, one of the things that stood out was his relationship with his girlfriend and his family. Doggy was perplexed that he couldn't get to see his children as often as he would want to, right? Because obviously he was on the run. And when you're on the run, you can't take no break. You can't tell police, say, yo, give me 2 days off, let me go chill out and pick them. You can't do that. Doggy wrote in his diary, and I quote, "Me and my son is chilling. I just put him to sleep. He is 6 months old, and he has never slept beside me one night since he was born. My life is very, very intense, but I must always find time for them, even an hour." End quote. He's speaking about his children there, right? Now, another thing as it relates to family and Doggy. He spoke about getting upset that his girlfriend, who had grown fear or grown to be afraid of even Doggy himself, right? Because by this point, he had become an Apex 87, right? He had become one of Jamaica's most wanted men. He was all over the TV. People want him head top, left, right, and center. His woman start get afraid, and his woman got fed up of the lifestyle. He said in his diary, and I quote, "Today I got mad and strike my girl. We are having some problems, real life issues. She make me happy, and I make her unhappy. She's scared of all this." End quote. People, so far you can see, Cedric Doggy Murray is the type of criminal who does wrong and knows that he is doing wrong, right? He goes on to state in the diary that he was afraid of losing his baby, and that is in reference to his girlfriend. He says, and I quote, "This is too much. She lives in constant fear. Every sound frightens her, so the time has come for me to, once again, to feel the pain of being heartbroken." End quote. People, again, remember, we're talking about one of Jamaica's most proficient killers at the time. But here he was displaying an extraordinary amount of emotions, which is why I said this individual was clearly tormented, right? He knows the impact he's having on people. He can see that his girlfriend is suffering, his children are suffering. He also knows his impact, the impact he's having on society, right? Now, people, he says this, and this is one of the most touching part of the diary, because this is where he gives an account of what happened to his daughter, who at the time was 4 years old. I think it was her 4th birthday, right? And then basically wake up under a curfew because JDF went for Doggy right around the time of his daughter's birthday. And he said, and I quote, "I called her and she said, 'Daddy, soldiers,' and she was afraid. My life is filled with ups and downs." He goes on to state, so many of those, right? And when he says many of those, he's talking about false alarms, because obviously my run up and down, and every time him go over here, so he may say police are come, so my run go over here, so when he says many of those, he's talking about false alarms. So back to the quote. "So many of those. This is a wasted life. I don't even have a roof over my head. I'm all over the place. I miss my kids." End quote. I'm going to repeat that part again, because the reason why I'm repeating some of these past people is because I want the youths to understand the real face of badness. I want the youths to understand that this is what it's actually like. It's not glamorous, it's not wasting in a music video. What Doggy is talking about, this is what it's actually like. Again, I quote, "So many of those. This is a wasted life. I don't even have a roof over my head. I'm all over the place. I miss my kids." End quote. People, let me give you a story before I go any further in this diary. I remember meeting a long time, 87. I'm talking about man who are bad from the early days when politics friction kick off in a Jamaica wicked, run about the 1980s. This individual was a 87. Him get charged and got court enough time, but every single time him bust the case, right, and manage to beat the system. And in the end up car firing, fly out, and he fly out basically to save him life. When he meet your foreign, right? Spent a lot of time over there. I remember visiting a relative abroad, and in visiting the relative abroad, I was sitting down in a barber shop one day, and I saw the individual, and instantly I picked up who the person was, right? And the person picked up me as well. And he sat there and he was talking to me. I'm asking him, "When last you got Jamaica?" And he said he hasn't been back since him run away. And he told me a story. He said one day he was running from the police, right? And police run him down. And bear in mind, people, this incident happened in the 80s, right? So he might run from police and he end up in one place where basically them raise animals, right? It was like a little coop or a pigsty. I don't know if it was pig, but it was definitely animals. Animals raised over there, and you're going to understand why when I get further into the story. He said he was lying in some what's the YouTube character? Some filth, right? He was lying in filth, animal filth, right? It up to his face to hide from the police. And him said him end up having to lie down there for hours upon top of hours, right? Police couldn't find him. I walk around him and him not see him. He said in the process of hiding, in spot a little man who used to sell bread, right? And that bread man was at the time, obviously them didn't really make much money. And as a 87 at the time, he did have enough money. He did have them time that desert clocks are wearing. He did have desert clocks for that shit. And he said at first them used to laugh off at the bread man and say, the bread man a fool because if he come join them, he would make money and he would live the good life. And he said in that moment, lying in the field, animal field, realizing same can't move and realize the police want to kill him. Him said in that moment, he would have done anything to trade places with the bread man. He would have given up every pair of clocks, every dollar in his pocket, every fame, every reputation to switch places with the bread man. You know why that was, people? That's because the bread man had his freedom. The bread man, even though he wasn't making a lot of money, he could walk up and down as him please and go where him please. This individual had a bag of money. He had a whole heap of reputation, right? He had a whole heap of kerosene, but this is what he had been reduced to. Lying down in an animal filth to hide from police. People, that person end up dead same way, right? He ended up dying in foreign. His enemies, years after, send man go foreign to kill him. I just tell that story so people can understand again the real life of being a criminal. Now back to Doggy. There are a lot of men, a lot of criminals, when you talk to them find every reason and justification for them actions, and they try to do mental gymnastics in trying to convince people and sometimes even themselves that what they are doing isn't wrong and they're not hurting anybody, and them try to justify this and justify that. What makes Cedric Doggy Murray so interesting is the fact that here you have a killer who knows that he's a killer and is tormented by the fact that he's a killer, and he leaves clues in his diary. He leaves messages in his diary that are so powerful. I'm going to get into some more, people. Are so powerful that in my opinion, and I've said it before in my first Stone Crusher video, Doggy's diary needs to be taught in schools, right? Jamaican children must see the real face of badness. This is why this youth is so interesting. Here you have a youth who does not play the usual bravado when it comes on to badness. So the average Jamaican bad man walk around and brag and tell us I'm in the business about this and the boy can make him to this, I'm afraid of that, I'm afraid of this, and him doing things him feel like I'm not worried about nothing. Here you have somebody saying, listen, this whole thing is hurting me, it's hurting my family, it's hurting society, I am a killer. Listen, people, let me go further into Doggy's diary. As I said, in my opinion, the most interesting criminal in Jamaican history, public criminal that is, right? Now, Doggy was a big fan of Dodos and the Coke family. Big fan of the Coke family. He wrote, I escaped, one of the last from where I was, under crazy gunfire, but God, grace, and mercy brought me out untouched, and my Don is free. I will always say Jim Brown, and for those of you who don't know, that's Dodo's father. I am loyal to the Coke family, and my guns will always be ready. End quote. People, when the big incursion happened in Tivoli Gardens, Cedric Doggy Murray and some other man, including Eldon Calvert, went down to West Kingston to help Dodos fight against the security forces. Right now, Doggy was overwhelmed. In his diary, he wrote that he was surprised at just how hard the security forces came for them. Because remember, people, up until then, nobody's ever seen the kind of force that was brought to Tivoli Gardens from the security forces against a gang. Never. It was unprecedented. Before that, all the little skirmishes were small time. Everybody was caught off guard. Doggy, West Kingston, Eldon Calvert, all them, and they were caught off guard. Just how hard the JDF went that day, right? Nevertheless, Doggy wrote in his diary, and I quote, all hell broke loose, more than we expected. I fired my AK until my finger numb. I eat gunpowder until my throat sore. I'm going to repeat that part. It's one of the most telling part in the diary. Again, I quote, all hell broke loose, more than we expected. I fired my AK until my finger numb. I eat gunpowder until my throat sore. People, as I said, the attack, the operation that JDF launched on Tivoli Gardens in that incursion was unprecedented. The criminals who were in West Kingston were not prepared for what came down on them that day. See, remember people, when Adams they go on there with film like a Mickey Mouse operation, and people they think that was the pinnacle. JDF was laughing because people were making it sound like Adams' operation was anything. Adams' operation was Mickey Mouse thing. That was a joke. That was police level operation. They were not prepared for what JDF was bringing towards them. As he said, more than they expected. A matter of fact, enough of the youth them who did run go down there. If them did know so that did I go reach them, they would have never went. See, when in the lead up to the Tivoli incursion, people were joking that enough time police try running up on Garden man just withstand it. So that gave them confidence. They thought, well, we wall off Adams. Remember when Adams growing in and people appear madman them killing them. Right? I don't know if people tell them that. There'll be a madman that walk up and down on the road. If you watch the videos, they may say lie down on the road. No real 87 wasn't taken out in the Adams operation or the previous like small time operations. But in this incursion, they buy it off more than they could chew. Now I'm going to go into some more things that Doggy wrote in his diary. As it relates to him being on the run, he said, I was asleep when Babylon came, but by the grace of God, I escaped. The tracks are rough. My life right now is very rough. Each day, way different from what I am used to at my age. End quote. Again, see, he's saying, for my age, for who I am, I should not go through all of this, right? And he's saying about the fact that life is rough, he's suffering. He's clearly suffering, physically and mentally. This youth is on the run right through the people. As I said, not the security forces want him dead. He must worry about him enemies and even his friends, right? Because in the world of 87s, you really have no friends, right? But notice something you keep hearing. By the grace of God. Here's the thing, people. Doggy was a huge believer in God. Doggy did not leave his house without his Bible in a back pocket. Mobile people can tell you that story. Doggy was a Bible thumping, Bible reading, mass murdering 87 hitman. Now you're starting to see why I think this youth is so interesting and complex compared to your average 87. Right? Now you see why this youth is so tormented. This is somebody who go out and kill people left, right and center, then come home go read in Bible. Right? He went on to state, I am just a man with many issues, some good, some bad. But I am a person with emotions, feeling, and fears, and dreams. A man who knows God. End quote. Again, people, you see the constant referring to God and belief and his religion. Again, now you're starting to see the whole reason why Doggy was so tormented. Right? Now you can Google Doggy's diary and you will find different excerpts from the diary. Right? Some of the most common ones are, I quote, my gun is my best friend. We are always together. Always. He also went on in his final days, right before them catch up with him, he was talking very, he started to realize what was going to happen, right? And he said this, quote, Babylon feels some man a fool like them can just come and kill me. Them better know say gangster for life. All out when me get drawn out, straight bullet for them. My gun is my best friend. We're always together, right? End quote. So the diary is going down in chronological order as he's realizing more and more, say, the day is coming when him go dead, right? And that diary, before you asked, is not completely available to the public. Now, here's the thing, people. I remember speaking to someone who told me someone who is in the system, let's just say that, who told me that they had a chance to look through the diary in its complete form, not the form that was given to the public. When they go online, they can see different excerpts here and there, but the actual diary itself. And I said to the person, that diary needs to get released, because the youths them need to see the real face of badness and see the real face of the real meaning of what it is to be an 87. That is not fun, it's not glorious, it's not as exciting as I see in the movies, it's not as fun and eventful as you see, as you hear in songs where you're going around and you're all this big hoop-de-doo. In real life, it is very stressing, it is very depressing, and this is the state of mind a lot of criminals fall into, right? And Doggy captured that perfectly. And if this diary was available to the public and the youth can read it and say, listen, this is the end result, so stay away from this lifestyle, then we can at least try and save some lives and turn some youths away from that lifestyle. The person I was spoken to said to me, listen, the full contents of Doggy's diary will never be available to the public. So I asked, why? The person said to me, you remember the Peter King tape? And I said, yeah, remember Peter King tape. Who remember Peter King tape? That when it was said that the well-known high society sprat named Peter King did have a tape, and it had some of Jamaica's most influential, high-ranking people on the tape. And if that tape ever come out, Jamaican society would be shaken to its core when people really see who they on that tape. I said to the individual, but Peter King tape was, them let's say, if certain people, if public know who they on it, then certain things are going to mash up. He said exactly. He said if certain things were in a Doggy diary were to make it to the public knowledge, then again society will be shaken to the core. And I thought to myself, hold on, Doggy was a professional hitman. He was not a walk up and down on the streets and bother up people type of 87. This youth made his money by being a hitman, right? Doggy was pointed out in at least 30 murders where the police know about. That was the police know about, right? So I started to think to myself, wait a minute. I wonder if Doggy mentioned the names of the people who sent him on these hits. Come on, people. I wonder if the reason why that diary can't be public is because Doggy mentioned the name of possibly some 116s, possibly some so-called big upstanding people. Maybe Doggy mentioned the name of some people who sleep on TV every day. Maybe Doggy mentioned the name of some politicians. Maybe Doggy mentioned the name of some big business people, some so-called law-abiding citizen. That is why that diary cannot get released in its full to the public. Now, understand these people. Doggy did, part of the excerpts that was released, Doggy mentioned a politician. He mentioned a politician who claims he threatened him, as in the politician said Doggy threatened him, right? And that in his diary, he goes on to state, and I quote, the politician that said I threatened him, I have never seen him face to face or ever spoken to him, and I'm no gang member or leader. I'm being used to clean their slate, end quote. What's fascinating is that depending on his mood that day, he either accepts he's a criminal or he isn't. See, on some days he openly tells you, for example, about what he did in the garden and the kind of things him get up to and how it bother him and how it perplex him. And on another day, he's no gang member or leader, right? Now, as again, people, this is what happens when one is being tormented. This is what happens when your inner demons are fighting you, right? People, everybody have a conscience, everybody have good inside of them, and when the good and the evil are wrestling, it seems to me like whichever one wins on that day, that is how Doggy speak. Whenever the good side come out that day, that's when he speaks about his girlfriend, how he's sorry that he's hurting her, and he's sorry that he had to put his hands on her, and he hates the fact that he can't see him children, and how he wishes he could be a part of society and he doesn't have to live like this. And then on the days when the bad side take over, that's when he talks like a standard regular 87, right? People, as I said, Doggy is a very interesting character. Now, who was that politician he was speaking about? Well, in the diary, at least what they released to the public, they said it was a St. James MP. Now, we can narrow it down to who that could be, right, or who those individuals could be, right? Because when the rumors came out that he threatened this MP, it caused a rift between him and some man from Garden. Now, if Garden man them did have a problem, say him and this MP fall out, right? And they were saying, listen, man, you are threatening the MP. That tells me that it was a JLP MP. And surely, when I did some research, it turns out that it was rumored that he sent death threats to a St. James JLP member of parliament. Now, again, who could that be? Watch Stone Crusher Part 1 and Part 2, and you'll have a pretty good idea of who he was talking about. Now, people, as I said, that diary will probably never see the light of day because it probably have some name in it. You see, you have to understand, even though Doggy was the one doing the dirty work, taking people's lives, you have to understand who was sending and who was paying Doggy to do this kind of dirty work. You know who was paying Doggy for killing all these people? It wasn't just other criminals. It wasn't just other druggies who were trying to remove their enemies. No. Your pastor, your co-worker, manager at your work, your MP, your councillor, the big respectable man from the neighborhood who everybody said, boy, is a nice gentleman, never seen anybody nothing yet. Those are the kind of people who would have the money to pay Doggy for his services. In my opinion, that is one of the reasons why Doggy's diary will never be released in its full. Because Doggy probably called some names, and those names are members of society. High society. See, if Doggy just called some name or some little man down the road, I'm pretty sure they would have thrown the diary and say, listen, everybody read it. Why would the government go to such lengths to hold on a diary of a criminal? Come on, people. Why the government just listen, see the diary, I take it, do you want to feel like with it? Right? Them hold on it, they've only released excerpts of the diary. I've always found that strange. Government no hold on nothing like this unless it could potentially hurt either them or people who connected to them, a couple of their donors. People, again, this is just my opinion. Cedric Doggy Murray is the most interesting Jamaican criminal in public knowledge. I really think his life, his diary can be used to save the lives of a lot of other youths and let them see just what this lifestyle is like. It's not a joke. I know it sounds fun in music, I know it look nice on TV, but in real life, badness on a joke. Just like any soldier will tell you, war on a joke. Nothing funny about it at all. PTSD, depression, stress, anxiety, turn into alcohol, turn into all kind of drugs, all kind of things for ease pain. This is what people go through. People, talk to me in the comment section. Patreon squad, big up on yourself. Please like, comment, and share the video. Bless.